The following is a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.
Drivers, start your engines. Pull those belts down tight one more time, warm up those tires, hit your marks, and let's go racing, boys and girls. Nascar, Indycar, Formula One, Formula E, and NHRA Racing Talk. This is the Championship Racing Network. Now here is your hosts, Steve West and Matt Nicholson, with producer John Myers.
Well, welcome in. You might note a little bit different background. So while the gang's all here, it's a little bit different. All three of us at our respective homes. Our flagship station has a commitment to college football. So this is the only way we could get this weekend show, but we know that you, the fans, are going to join us. Here's the other thing. It also means we don't have any constraints. We can go a lot longer if we need to. So we're going to start with Indycar because, well, in their final race weekend of the year, 2023, got a whole lot of other things to talk about there. We got deals signed for 2024 in Cup, multiple. A new name with a familiar sound set to race in the Craftsman Truck Series. We'll detail that. Got a big-time retirement from Formula E coming up. We also got an update on an injured Formula One driver, and that's just the start. We got so much more coming up on this weekend's edition, YouTube only, of CRN. And we'll get it started right after we take this short break because, after all, we want you to be familiar.
Stay. Tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
Well, good morning to you officially once again. I'm Steve West. We got Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers in the background as well. He may chime in and say good morning, or who knows. We'll find out throughout the course of the morning. Matt, how's everything with you?
Things are good over here in the friendly confines of Calhoun County.
Yeah, I got you.
Trying to get awake this morning.
Yeah, that's the trick, and it's very different for all of us, obviously, because our flagship terrestrial radio station has a college football commitment. We may have to do this once, maybe twice more this year. A lot of it just kind of depends on exactly the scheduling of everything, but just to let you all know, our flagship station is a Georgia Bulldogs affiliate. And anytime they get an early kickoff, which in this case is 11 a.m. Central Time, noon Eastern, that means their pregame show starts at 8 a.m. Central Time, which, of course, is the exact same time that we begin.
Yay, Bulldogs.
So,
Bulldogs.
yeah, so that preempts us over there because, well, you know, college football rules in the South, even above, yes, racing. So, yeah. So we get booted, so we go to YouTube only. So we appreciate you joining us. A couple of people have already noted the background here. Yeah, it's been a labor of love and, well, A labor of annoyance for my wife, but that's another story entirely. Let's take a look what happened last weekend, the busy Labor Day weekend here in the United States. A whole lot of racing. Start off with the Xfinity Series, and if somebody could own Darlington, that person might just be Denny Hamlin. Hamlin decided to moonlight in the Xfinity Series race. He got by Austin Hill, took the lead on lap 147, which that was already overtime. He was able to roll on, claim the win. That's his 6th win in the Xfinity Series at that South Carolina facility. That doesn't include what he's done in the Cup Series. So Hamlin bested Hill, John Hunter Nemechek third, then Cole Custer, Josh Berry, Riley Earpst. That's important. We'll get back to it. Justin Allgaier, Sheldon Creed, Moonlighter Kyle Busch, Daniel Hemrick making up the top 10. So obviously with the Moonlighter winning, no new automatic qualifiers for the playoffs with those that were in, beginning with John Hunter Nemechek, Austin Hill, Justin Allgaier, Cole Custer, Sam Mayer, Chandler, Sammy Smith, and Jeb Burton still in. That's not changed. Those that are in on points does continue to change. Now, Josh Berry is in a great place. He's at 109 points over the cutoff, and only this weekend's race to go. He's locked on points. Sheldon Creed and Daniel Hemrick could be caught mathematically, 56 and 55 points above the cutoff. It seems unlikely. We'll get back into the scenarios when we get into news. That leaves your 12th and final spot, which has changed hands again. Back to Riley Earpst. Took advantage of a really bad break for Parker Kligerman. He had a bad day, and now Riley has a 1-point lead going into this weekend, meaning effectively the better finisher gets in, the other one is out, but there are other scenarios that could obviously throw a monkey wrench into that whole situation. So again, we'll get back into that when we get into the Xfinity Series news. Sunday continued the racing, first overseas for us in Italy, Monza, specifically for Formula One's Italian Grand Prix. The only drama was this. Ferrari's driver, Carlos Sainz, jumped up, garnered the pole. So the question was, could a Ferrari pull the upset on home turf and block Max Verstappen from yet another win? Short answer, no. It took Verstappen 15 laps to do it, but on the first chicane of lap 15, he forced a mistake by Sainz, got by him. The rest, history. His Red Bull teammate Sergio Perez also got by Sainz, and he claimed second. Sainz relegated to third. Charles Leclerc and the other Ferrari was fourth. So 2 Red Bulls, 2 Ferraris. How about 2 Mercedes? George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, 5th and 6th. Then Alex Albon, Lando Norris, Fernando Alonso, Valtteri Bottas. We haven't talked about him for a while, but he jumps up and grabs the top 10 for Alfa Romeo. Verstappen's Formula One record 10th win in a row and 12th win on the season. Yeesh. Has him holding 364 points to his teammate Sergio Perez's 219 in second. We've said it for quite a while now. He is your champion in waiting.
Yeah, it's over.
Yeah, we're just waiting for the official crowning. 170 for Fernando Alonso, Lewis Hamilton 164, so that's still up for grabs. Carlos Sainz 117, Charles Leclerc 111, 109 for George Russell, so that area is still up for grabs. You got Lando Norris kind of all by himself with 79 points, because next up is Stroll with 47, Pierre Gasly with 37. Kind of like what we were talking about with Max Verstappen, your Constructors' Cup champion in waiting is Red Bull, 583 points. Second place Mercedes, 273. For those of you bad at math, that's a 310-point difference. The difference is bigger than the amount of points that Mercedes has accrued.
That's nuts.
It's kind of stupid.
That's nuts.
Ferrari has 228, Aston Martin 217, dropping to 4th because of what Ferrari was able to pull off with a 3rd and 4th place finish. McLaren at 115, not necessarily all by themselves, but a little bit of a cushion. They've got a 115 to 73 advantage over Alpine, so there's a minor battle there maybe if Alpine can figure something out, but it looks like McLaren has actually been the ones to find something out. Then the battle for the dregs, if you will. 21 for Williams, Haas F1 with 11, with that top 10 finish by Valtteri Bottas. Alfa Romeo has jumped up to 10. AlphaTauri still only got 3. I think they're basement dwellers for the rest of the year. I just don't see it, especially with the injury to Daniel Ricciardo, but we'll get back to that. Next up was IndyCar in Portland, second to last race of the year. This was the opportunity for Alex Palou to wrap up the season title, had Scott Dixon hot on his heels, and if there's one guy you don't want hot on your heels, generally it's Scott Dixon. And Dixon did really all he could do almost. He ran up front all race long, but coming in, we talked about this last week. Remember, he'd never won at Portland, and he needed to do all but that in order to push the title chase into the final race of the year this weekend. Spoiler alert, he couldn't. Alex Palou was in front of Dixon pretty much all race long. And he really didn't have to be in front of Dixon all race. All he had to do was really keep Dixon in his sights. Either way, Palou led 69 of the day's 110 laps. He beat Felix Rosenqvist to the checkers by more than 5 seconds. Scott Dixon could do no better than his best ever finish at Portland, which was third place. Pato O'Ward, Joseph Newgarden round out the top 5. Then you got Rinus VeeKay, Marcus Ericsson, David Malukas, big news on him coming up. Scott McLaughlin and Kyle Kirkwood all made the top 10. This was a win that was more than enough to lock down the title for Palou. It marks the first time, by the way, back when they were split between CART and Indycar, that the IndyCar title had been clinched before the final race of the season. That was 2007 when Sebastian Bourdais did it. The win was Palou's series-leading 5th of the year, and going into the final race of the year, he's finished 8th or better in every single one of the 16 races, with 17 coming this weekend. Chip Ganassi's 15th series title as well, second only to Team Penske in all-time driver titles. Cup Series took their turn at Darlington then, late afternoon into the night race. It's something that Matt and I are quite familiar with, and we're also familiar with the fact that Darlington had a big hiccup. But it wasn't rain this time. This time, it had something that I've only seen once before, and that was when I was a guy that was doing the PA announcing and was the track announcer for the old Birmingham International Raceway. May it rest in peace.
This is the second time I've seen this happen.
At Darlington?
Not at Darlington overall.
Okay. Yeah, in case you missed it, the power to the light banks in turns 3 and 4 failed. And if you're at night and you're in Darlington and you know anything about night in Darlington, you know that's not going to work. So they red flagged the race. They got the electricians out. They worked on it, and they finally got things running. And when they got it back to racing, Kyle Larson, who has done everything but win at Darlington coming in, he was able to actually get his Camaro out front with 55 laps to go, led them all, got the win. That officially locks Larson. That's easy for me to say. That officially locks Larson into the second round of the playoffs. That eases his mind a bit because he admits he got a little bit lucky. He didn't feel like he had the fastest car. He said that definitely belonged to Denny Hamlin. But Hamlin, when he pitted during the race, had to pit the very next lap because of a vibration that turned out to be a loose wheel. And Matt, we'll get to you here in a second, but let's face it, when you pit 2 laps in a row, that effectively ends your chances at a win. When you're dealing with a loose wheel situation and you're dealing with that kind of vibration, sometimes you can get a vibration that may go away. It may just be because you're waiting for the tire pressures to come up or whatever. In this situation, that was never going to fix itself.
Yeah, either tire pressure issue, there may be a wheel weight that may have got knocked off. Okay. That'll do it too.
Yep.
Because it's surprisingly, these cars do run wheel weights to balance the wheels out.
Sure.
And but yeah, when it's a loose wheel, when the lug nut is a little bit loose, it's kind of uncurable.
Yep. So had to come in and do it again. So it, like we said, killed his chances at doing anything up front. So Larson wins. Nice run by Tyler Reddick for second. Then Chris Buescher continuing a hot streak there. He was third. William Byron fourth. Ross Chastain fifth. Rest of your top 10, Brad Keselowski, Bubba Wallace, Chase Elliott, Ryan Blaney, Eric Jones with a nice run for him too. As we noted, Kyle Larson moving on to the next round. Those that are on the hot seat, more importantly. Bubba Wallace, as we mentioned, had a good day. He's only 1 point under the cutoff. Kevin Harvick's 2 under. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 4 under. So all 3 of those are not feeling all that bad right now because points-wise, if you have a good day and somebody doesn't have a good day, which is very, very easy to do at a place like Kansas, we'll find out. We saw a lot of people getting loose last night. We'll probably see the same thing later today in the Xfinity Series as we air live. That could happen. Michael McDowell, hard luck guy. He had a good-looking car but got caught up in a crash, and because of that, he's 19 points under now. Christopher Bell's your last driver in. He's only 2 points behind Joey Logano in 11th, so if you're paying attention, you got 11th through really 15th, only separated by, well, they're all separated by less than 10 points. Yeah, so a lot of movement can happen here. Let's see what else we got here. How about the final event of Labor Day weekend, which actually happened on Monday here in the United States? NHRA competing in the U.S. Nationals in Indianapolis. This was the event that was going to set the chase for the championship contenders. And Top Fuel came down to a battle between Antron Brown and Steve Torrance. Brown pulls it off. He gets the quicker reaction time, expands it out on the other end with a 3.779 ET, 328.54 miles per hour. Brown claims his third win of 2023, his 74th win of his career to date. Ron Capps pairing off against J.R. Todd in the Funny Car Finals. Capps pulling away with a quicker reaction time. Todd's car appeared to drop a cylinder just past halfway. Capps clinches at 323.27 miles per hour, 3.986 ET. Capps with his third win of 2023, 76th win of his career. Then you got Fernando Quadra taking on Matt Hartford, Pro Stock Car Finals. Quadra getting the jump, but his car laid over quickly. Hartford was leading right after the Christmas tree. He rolls on to the win. Quadra fought traction problems really all the way down. Hartford runs a 6.624 ET at 206.57 miles per hour. That's win number 2 of the year for him. He's only got 7, but he's got a young career, so plenty more for him to go. And that leads us to Pro Stock Motorcycle, coming down to a head-to-head battle between No Gage Herrera? That's right. Hector Arana Jr. and Matt Smith this time. When Arana red-lighted, Matt Smith just needed a clean run. He got it and did a one for the show, too. 6.854 ET, 198.20 miles per hour. Smith claims his first win of 2023, his 37th win of his career. And for the record, in Top Alcohol, Tony Stewart made it to the second round of eliminations there, but he lost to Julie Nataas. Julie would go on to the finals, where she lost to Madison Payne. We'll detail the drivers in the chase for the championship during NHRA news, but they don't do that in anything other than the Camping World Drag Racing Series. Top Alcohol is not part of that, so they'll continue on points in the season. Julie Nataas has reclaimed the lead over Tony Stewart, now 572 to 551. And third place, by the way, Sean Cowie's sitting there at 549, so the top 3 look to be battling it out all the way to the end of the year to see who's going to claim the title in Top Alcohol. Could Tony Stewart do it in his first year? He certainly seems to have the car to do it, but he and Julie and now Sean Cowie, Matt, this is going to be a battle that's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be a close battle for sure. I mean, I'm not surprised, but I am surprised that Tony Stewart's had as much success as he's had this year so far.
I want to say I'm surprised, but considering the fact that we've talked about him basically being able to be uber competitive in any race car he jumps into, I don't know why this would surprise us.
The only fact being that it being just straight line runs instead of being long distance races in an oval.
Yeah.
You could say that.
Or for that matter, a road course, because he certainly proved to be good at doing that in IndyCar and in stock cars as well.
True.
So
true.
let's talk about this weekend. Certainly not as busy as last weekend. This weekend's racing slate, though, actually did begin last night. I'll tell you what. We'll get to the Craftsman Truck Series in a second, because the ARCA Menard Series actually kicked things off, Matt, and you wanted to make a comment on that first.
You can see that I'm rubbing my forehead on this one. You have a 20. Let me just do this. Let me pull the final rundown up.
Okay.
You have a you have a field of 21.
Okay.
Okay. ARCA fields at mile and a half run from 20. I'm gonna say 20 to 28.
Generally, yeah.
Generally. When you have a race, and brace yourself for this, Sean Myers, where 2 cars finish on the lead lap.
All 2.
2.
Out of 21.
The 10th place car was 3 laps down. The 13th place car was 14 laps down. Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got a problem. We need to fix it between the speed discrepancy and make these races a little bit more competitive. I mean, that was comical. I'm sorry, but it was comical.
Let's talk about the much more competitive Craftsman Truck Series race that ran last night then.
the very uber competitive.
Yeah, Kansas Lottery
Chrysler Truck
200.
Series race. Yep. Quite the little finish there. 3 wide pass made out of turn 4 for the win. That was secured by one Christian Eckes, which locked him in even though he was already locked in on points, it locked him in with a win into the second round of the Truck Series playoffs. You had Taylor Gray getting a career best second, throwing the last lap haymaker and trying to go for it. You had Matt DiBenedetto in third.
Yep.
Corey Hahn fourth, Zane Smith fifth, Carson Hocevar sixth. You had Stuart Friesen seventh, Nick Sanchez eighth, Tyler Ankrum ninth, and in the second Tory truck, you had Jake Drew rounding out the top 10.
Okay. Brett
And
Holmes, by
with-
the way,
He
seemed to have
ended up he had a good run going. He was in P14 coming to end on the final restart, but on the last lap got into the wall off of turn 2 and ended up P20.
Yeah. So for those of you that
nursing
are in the
home-
local
nursing
area
home.
checking us out, trying to figure out what's happened to him.
Nursing
And
home.
And most importantly here, this was a cutoff race here. So 2 drivers officially eliminated from the playoffs. They're the 2 Matts. You talked about it. Matt DiBenedetto trying to throw the haymaker came up just short. He's eliminated. I want to say that I'm surprised by that, but I'm really not, because his move down to the Truck Series has not been as successful as I thought it was going to be when he did it. The other guy is the surprise. It's the 3-time Truck Series champion, Matt Crafton. He's eliminated after round 1.
Yeah, Matt Crafton was not even a factor last night, which
No.
was to my complete surprise. I mean, he did junk a truck in practice,
That would do
but
it.
he really never was a factor. So the ones advancing on, you got Corey Hahn, Christian Eckes, Grant Enfinger, Zane Smith, Carson Hocevar, Ty Majeski, Ben Rhodes, and Nick Sanchez.
All right, so that'll be round 2. Meantime, here's the rest of your weekend schedule. Today, as we air live, or YouTube live, whatever, it's the Xfinity Series running at Kansas Speedway. It's the Kansas Lottery 300. That'll air on NBC and MRN Radio starting at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central Time. This is their final race before the playoffs, so this is it. This is all the marbles. And like I said, when we get into the news, we'll detail some of the playoff clinching scenarios. Sunday's racing starts out on the West Coast with the final race of the 2023 IndyCar season. It's the Firestone Grand Prix of Monterey. 11 turns, 2.238 miles long, the WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. That's on NBC and IMS Radio. 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Central Time. And then the Cup Series will get things rolling at Kansas Speedway. They're going to compete in the Hollywood Casino 400, set to air at 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central Time. Means it'll air on USA, since IndyCar's got NBC, and MRN Radio. Formula One and the NHRA both are going to be off this weekend, but they will be back next weekend, which we'll detail that next weekend when we get into the scheduling. But when we come back, since it is the final race weekend for IndyCar, that's who we're going to lead off with. We're going to grab a quick break and grab something to drink here real quick, and we'll be right back.
For more on the Championship Racing Network. 4 tires and 2 cans of fuel, and we're back to more racing action on the Championship Racing Network.
All right. Welcome back in. Steve West, Matt Nicholson, producer John Myers here. YouTube-only version, CRN Live. Don't forget, tell your friends about it. I know you probably have to some extent, but, continue to do so. We really appreciate it because we're still looking to pick this up because, again, this probably won't be the last time this year that we're going to end up being YouTube-only for CRN. So be prepared for that. And also wanted to kind of note something here. We're going to do very similar to what we usually do. Obviously, we did the little tease to begin with. So what you're used to when we're doing both radio and YouTube at the same time, we want to kind of get you into that same routine. So that's why you're hearing breaks. It allows us to take a quick breath, maybe stretch our legs, grab a quick something to drink so that we're not doing it on the air, things like that. So yeah, we're just trying to keep it as familiar as possible. But again, the fact that we don't have to be off the air at 10 a.m. Whenever we get done is when we get done. So that's kind of the fun part about it. But let's get into the news here, and we start off with IndyCar because, again, it is their final race of the 2023 season. They have crowned their champion, and that's pretty much what we do. When you have the new champion, we tend to lead off the news with that series. You might have forgotten this, however, but tomorrow's race, even though the championship has been decided, might be an interesting watch for one thing in particular. You might have forgotten the fact, but this underwent a full track repave after last year's IndyCar race. So that means you got a brand new ultra grippy surface. The speeds are much higher. Thursday, for example, first practice session showed that. Will Power ran a quick lap time of the day, 1 minute, 7.2762 seconds. Now, what does that mean to you? Last year, Power was the pole position winner for the final race of the 2022 season. His time for winning the pole last year, 1 minute, 11.6127 seconds. That's more than 4 seconds quicker. That practice time by Will Power, again, 107.2762, was actually under the previous track record set in 2000 by Elio Castroneves by over half a second. So yes, it's faster, boys and girls. It's faster. Now, Power says that he feels not only will his pole time from last year be obliterated, but the official track record from Castroneves will not stand either. And you say, well, didn't he already beat it? Well, yes, but IndyCar doesn't count practice sessions when they're talking official track records when it comes to the series. So it has to be in qualifying or in the race. So there it is. So we're going to wait and see what happens in qualifying, which I do believe happens later today.
Yep.
What time do we know? I'll let you look that up while I'm going through and looking up some other things here. The 2023 IndyCar Rookie of the Year has also been clinched. We talked about the fact that Alex Palou is your IndyCar champion. He cannot be caught. Your IndyCar Rookie of the Year is officially Marcus Armstrong. Armstrong, despite the fact that he's running a part-time deal, he's only running the road and street course races for Chip Ganassi Racing. He missed all 5 of the oval track races. Goes into this final racing weekend. He's got a 26-point edge over Agustin Canapino in the rookie standings. And the way that they award points in the rookie standings is obviously different than in the regular standings. It cannot be overcome. So again, despite missing 5 oval races on the year, driving for Chip Ganassi Racing, Chip Ganassi not only has the overall IndyCar champ, he's got the 2023 Rookie of the Year as well. And next year, Ganassi has already confirmed Armstrong will be a full-time driver. He and the team came to terms on a multi-year deal. The driver will race the entire schedule, all 17 races, all the ovals, which means the 23-year-old will have his first crack at the Indy 500. He's got 4 top 10 finishes this year so far. His best finish came back at the streets of Toronto when he claimed 7th place. So there you go. Congratulations to Marcus.
Today we got practice will be at 12 p.m.
Okay.
And qualifications will be at 4 o'clock.
Ooh, late afternoon. Interesting, because
Yep,
that's going to be well,
4 o'clock Central, which is 2 o'clock Pacific.
yeah. So that's Still, that's a little bit later than what they're actually going to be racing tomorrow.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see what the difference is. We'll be checking it out. Meantime, back to Armstrong. Armstrong got real comfortable in IndyCar after having spent 3 successful seasons in Formula 2. He couldn't break through into Formula 1. We've talked about that before. I mean, Formula 1 is pretty much locked down, so he decided to make the move that a whole lot of drivers in the Formula 1 feeder ladder are choosing to make more and more consistently, and that's coming to the United States to get into IndyCar. Following this weekend's final race of the year, he and the team going to get an oval track test at Texas Motor Speedway. And what we now know is that the Chip Ganassi Racing lineup seems to be quite solidified. 4 full-time rides next year. Armstrong, who we just mentioned, 6-time champion Scott Dixon, he's not going anywhere. Alex Palou, as we noted last week on the show, is back, but there's more to it. We'll talk about that. And we have this information. We know that Marcus Ericsson is leaving. Linus Lundqvist appears to be the guy that's going to replace him. So, nice 4-car lineup there for Chip Ganassi Racing as things, what at this point in time last year seemed to be kind of all the cards up in the air. If you want to play 52-card pickup, so to speak, everything was in a mess. This year, what a difference a year makes. He seems to have all of his ducks in a row now.
Considerable difference, I agree.
All right. We're going to let you see a picture here because we got a few pictures for you on CRN Live on YouTube. And this one comes courtesy of IndyCar. And this really should come as no surprise to anyone who's paid any attention to the back and forth that Michael Andretti has had with the FIA and Formula One about garnering a team in that series. Andretti Autosport has a parent company. It's called Andretti Global. Well, now the entirety of the organization will be called Andretti Global, and Andretti Autosport goes the way of the dodo bird, and they have a new logo for it, which you can now see. The team's entries in IndyCar and Indy NXT will be running this weekend. Their season finales at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca one final time under the Andretti Autosport banner. The first to run under Andretti Global on the track will be the first practice sessions for Formula E when they start to practice in late October for their upcoming 10th season. Again, that new look is courtesy of IndyCar.com. It's kind of a clean look, but it's not vastly different from their old look. It's just kind of, they cleaned it up a little bit and made it a little bit sharper.
Yeah, it looks good. It looks good. I mean, sometimes looks are the cleaner the better.
Yeah, sometimes if you do simplicity, it just makes it so much better. Let's talk about Meyer Shank Racing. Meyer Shank Racing has decided that they're going to go all in. They are not dabbling anymore in IndyCar. They've signed Felix Rosenqvist to a multi-year deal to race for them beginning next year and beyond. Rosenqvist is set to team with Tom Blomqvist in a 2-car full-time operations, and they plan to enter a 3rd car in 2024, at least the Indy 500 for Elio Castroneves. He may decide to do more than one race. We don't know, but remember, Elio is making the first steps towards officially retiring from IndyCar, and he's already been announced as added to the upper hierarchy, and I think he actually does have part ownership now in Meyer Shank Racing, so he's looking to his future beyond being a driver. But Elio Castroneves is not done, at least with the Indy 500, but they will be a 2 full-time car operation. Rosenqvist, now 31, wrapping up season number 5 in IndyCar. He does have 1 win to his credit, but that was back in 2020 at Road America, back when he was driving for Chip Ganassi Racing. He's got 4 pole positions to his credit. The most recent one came at Texas earlier this year. After 2 years at Chip Ganassi, he moved over to Arrow McLaren for 2021. Now he moves over to Meyer Shank Racing. And that, what kind of a move does that speak to you? This, to me, it's a good move for Meyer Shank Racing. And no disrespect to Meyer Shank Racing, though, I don't put them on the same level that I put Arrow McLaren.
No, definitely not. But with this move right here, I hope we're not, I'm just going to say it, I hope we're not seeing a similar scenario as we see with Kurt Busch. Because Simon Pagenaud being out, this has the eerily similar looks of how Kurt Busch has been going.
Yeah.
I hope Simon Pagenaud's not through, but I'm afraid he may be if they've already got him replaced.
It does appear that way. You are correct.
Yeah.
We haven't detailed it much in the results because truth be told, if we were to tell you every time that David Malukas got into a top 10, which was actually a rather surprising number of times this year, to then tell you it was racing for Dale Coyne Racing with HMD Motorsports would be a little bit, well, laborious. But since 2021, those two operations have cooperated on the number 18 car. That cooperation, done after this weekend's racing. Mike Marini, the GM of HMD Motorsport, talked to motorsport.com, said this, quote, "I can say that HMD will 99% not be running with Dale Coyne Racing." So you're saying there's a chance. Malukas is leaving. We know that. Where he will be in 2024 wasn't confirmed at the time of this talk. We'll get back to that. But all signs were pointing to one particular team. Marini says that this isn't anything that's gone wrong in the relationship between Coyne and HMD Motorsports. It's really more due to the fact that Malukas has one foot out the door, prompted HMD to kind of hit the brakes a little bit, slow things down. And Marini added this, quote, 2 years ago when David started there was a possible expansion or an alignment with Dale Coyne Racing. Just seeing everything, how we want to do things, how our path is on the Indy Next level versus what we want to do in the future. It just didn't align with what we wanted. And the team is solid in Indy Next. As a matter of fact, they just signed the newly minted USF Pro 2000 champion to drive for them in Indy next year. So they're solid there. The question becomes, could they do their own IndyCar operation? Marini says that is the dream, but then cautioned, quote, "That's yet to be determined. If there's a chance and it's the right opportunity, then yeah, we'll probably jump at it. I think right now the major focus for us is we've won the Indy Next Championship last year. We're trying to win hopefully on Saturday this year." We can get into the scheduling if you want, but unfortunately you'd have to go to, I think it's, Peacock to actually see it. Trying to win Rookie of the Year as well, trying to finish the shop. The shop he's referring to is a major upgrade. They're currently running in a building that's about 5,000 to 8,000 square feet, he says. The finished building, which should be move-in ready around Christmas, he says, 80,000 square feet.
Massive pickup.
That'll be a much more comfortable place. And what that tells me is that Marini's kind of playing a little bit of cat and mouse, if you will. He's he's running the smoke screen. You don't build an 80,000 square foot facility to run only Indy Next and below.
Yeah, you're looking at expanding to a much substantially higher series. Let's say it that way.
Yeah. So the timing is going to be what's going to be most important there. And again, having just signed the gentleman who has picked up the USF Pro 2000 championship for this year, moving him into Indy next year, I'm not saying is on the fast track necessarily, but depending on how well he performs next year, that might be the centerpiece for HMD Motorsports to then jump into the IndyCar series with a really good potential hot shoe kid.
With them, with them just signing that USF Pro 2000 champion, which is a gentleman by the name of Miles Rowe, that this car owner, I don't know if anybody's heard of him. This car owner named Roger Penske. He's pretty high on this kid.
I think I've heard of him.
He's the first African American champion in open wheel history.
Yep.
So this is a very, very massive pickup by HMD.
Yep.
And could be a very solid, super solid centerpiece to start their own IndyCar operation.
Yeah, he could be that cornerstone that
Absolutely.
They need to build that proper foundation for HMD moving to IndyCar. And we've talked about it. We've got more and more teams that are interested in coming in, and those teams seem to be expanding out. I mean, we had 27 full-time cars this past year, and we could be talking about maybe closing in on 30 within the next couple of years without much of a problem.
Yep.
But in the meantime, remember that note about Malukas having one foot out the door? Well, remember, that was Marini's interview from about Tuesday of this week. Friday, he all but put the other foot out. Malukas has signed to drive for Arrow McLaren Racing next year, presumably the car that would have been driven by Alex Palou. and the one that Felix Rosenqvist might have been in. We don't know which one of the car. They might have been one and the same, truth be told. Alex Palou might have taken over for Felix Rosenqvist had that all actually come together. But now it's going to be Malukas in that car next year. So one more time, Dale Coyne Racing with HMD Motorsports with Malukas, and then he's packing up whatever stuff he's got in the locker in that 5,000 to 8,000 square foot facility, and he is leaving his keys to the facility on a desk. Speaking of Alex Palou, we've been kind of wondering how this whole thing fell apart, because it really did appear as if Alex Palou was headed to Arrow McLaren and might have a chance at Formula One. That was the key, as it turns out. Alex Palou sat down when he got things locked down last weekend, second championship in 3 years, made it to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca on Thursday, and sat down with the media, and for the first time is actually talking about it. Now, and he'll also be able to enjoy this final weekend because he doesn't have to sweat it out. But again, the real drama was what was going to happen earlier this year. Was he going to be staying at Chip Ganassi Racing and spurning Arrow McLaren where he was expected to be? The question became what really happened here. And Palou's been quiet about it because he says, I want to concentrate on the championship run. Okay, championship run's taken care of. So Thursday, he got hit with the question, and he actually took the time and addressed it for the first time. His basic overview on why he decided to stay with Ganassi instead of heading to McLaren did have to do with Formula One. He said, quote, there's no hiding. Like, if you look at my interviews until 2021, I was saying that I was not focused on F1 at all, and that was totally true. But things changed when I won the championship because I was only 24. I just won my first big championship. I'm like, what if I try something? Well, it can go sideways, but then it can come back to IndyCar, and I'm 27. I'm still super young, and I can still do that for like 10, 15 years. But then everything changed. The door opened a little bit with McLaren. It was amazing. I got to test the F1 cars. I got to practice one at COTA last year, which was amazing. That opportunity was great, but there was nothing else there saying, oh, you will have a car. At this time, if I was 20, maybe I would have waited. But I'm not 20. I'm 26. And on that side, I don't know if there's been somebody aged 30 getting into Formula One. He finished by saying that his lawyers told him not to comment on any contractual matters because, well, McLaren has instigated legal action against Palou in British court. No word on when that's going to be heard, but one would presume sometime after the Formula One season comes to an end. So I would say probably December at some point in time. So again, that leaves us with kind of an odd situation. We'll get to what we know as far as the open seats right there. Is this Alex Palou understanding the difficulty of getting into Formula One, saying he doesn't know of a driver that's made it to Formula One at the age of 30? Is this him understanding that his best bet was with the team that he'd already won a championship with and was blazing through the schedule in 2023 with, and that's why he decided to do it? Or do you think there might be more to the story and nobody's saying what that is?
I don't think it's as much more to the story. I think it's a matter of he's seeing how top heavy F1 is, and
Sure.
how seats are locked down for long periods of time unless you just absolutely pull a complete total choke job. And then at the midpoint of the year, look where McLaren flipped their switch,
Sure.
and now they're from bottom feeding up towards they're running top 10 consistently.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, well, Oscar's picked it up. Lando's been more than safe.
Yeah.
I might better hang around here in IndyCar where I pretty much got pick of the litter and I can do what I want when I please and run over everybody.
Sure. And I know what I have in the Chip Ganassi Racing car. Obviously, again, the championship win 2021, 2022, a slightly down year, but still finished top 10 in points. Comes back even that much stronger in 2023 and what they thought was going to be the last year. I mean, there's two different ways that you can really look at this situation. They could have said, hey, he's going to be gone out the door. We're going to put all of our eggs over here in these other baskets and not worry about Alex Palou. But they didn't do that. They said, we're going to give Alex Palou a great run. And as the year went along and he started racking up wins and he started being the leader, he started going, why am I going to leave this championship organization for the unknown at Arrow McLaren?
that's yeah. I mean, he's like you just said. Why would you leave for that when you know what you got here?
Yep.
Yes,
Bird in the hand is worth more than two in the bush in this case.
Bingo. Bingo.
So as we noted or hinted to, that leaves what we know is 2 open seats for 2024. Again, these are known. Things can still happen after this weekend, and drivers can change or retire or whatever. But what we know is that right now 2 seats are open. One of them is the one that David Malukas vacated, the Dale Coyne Racing seat, the 18 car. There are 2 drivers that seem fairly likely for that one. One is Devlin DeFrancesco. He's currently driving for Andretti Autosport, but we know he's not going to be back there next year, and he's got his own sponsorship that comes along with him, so that helps. But there's another Andretti driver possible if he doesn't keep his seat at Andretti. Romain Grosjean, who moved from Dale Coyne to Andretti 2 years ago, might find himself back where he began. No disrespect to Dale Coyne, but if I'm guessing here, I'm going to say he's going to take the driver that brings the check.
Yeah. I mean, the way today's age is in motorsports, yeah, you're going to take the driver that got the check versus the one that has the experience.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because I don't, sorry to say it, but DeFrancesco, I'm not putting you on the same level as Romain Grosjean. I think, Romain Grosjean has had his problems. Certainly, he hasn't claimed to win yet in IndyCar, but I've seen him running up front a heck of a lot more than I've ever seen Devlin DeFrancesco.
Yeah, and that's the bad part. I don't know what exactly. I mean, yeah, he's had some instances where he's been running the absolute daylights out of the car, and then something happens and he either breaks or gets in the wall and wrecks.
Sure.
But he's going for it.
Yep. Just haven't seen that at DeFrancesco.
Yeah, but so what warrants taking him out of the seat? I don't understand that.
The fact that he hasn't won. That's the only thing I can think of.
It's got, yeah, I would say that the fact that he hasn't won a race yet.
Yep, it's got to be it. The other known seat to need a driver is over at Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. That's the old Jack Harvey ride, the 30 car. Now, last weekend at Portland, it was Yuri Vips, the former Formula 2 driver. He'll be in it again this weekend. So that's 2 races, and it's really thought to be more than just a chance to drive, but really more of a tryout. And it seems like he's got the inside track on the car, but again, anything's possible because nothing's confirmed or signed on the dotted line. There's one other seat that seems to be possible, according to most of the reports that I've seen. Now, again, this is starting to dabble in the rumors, but we'll go ahead and dabble in it a little bit because it's AJ Foyt Racing. We talked about this. They forged a technical cooperation or partnership with Team Penske. And that should benefit the team long term. The question becomes, is this now going to be a situation where not only does Team Penske start to offer them some crew members, but does Team Penske look down into the IndyCar feeder ladder and go, hey, why don't we try this driver and see if we can't bring them up through the area? It does appear that 2023 rookie Benjamin Peterson has a multi-year deal, so he'll likely be back. But Santino Ferrucci, who has outperformed Peterson race to race, is believed to be wrapping up a 1-year deal this weekend. The team isn't talking yet, so maybe we'll get more information on this as we go along. IndyCar has talked about the 2024 schedule. We'll dive into it when we come back. Thank you for checking us out here on CRN.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. tires only. And back out to the track for more action on the Championship Racing Network.
Hey, welcome back into the show here. Technically, I guess we're getting into hour number 2. But, hey, again, we don't have any constraints. We're YouTube only this weekend. We're going to go as long as we feel like it. Technicalities, sure. IndyCar officials said over the summer they wanted to get the official 2024 racing schedule out before the end of the year. Yeah, that's not going to happen. Mark Miles, the CEO of Penske Entertainment, said on Friday they still have one hurdle to overcome, and that hurdle has to deal with the Honda Indy Toronto Street Race. They were in the last year of that deal this year. The City Council is expected to meet and debate this in the next couple of weeks. It is expected that they're going to approve the extension of the contract, but until then, Indy is waiting to make the official release for next year. Miles said this, quote, "It's likely to be another 2 weeks. We're thinking about making sure as we release the schedule that we have a simultaneous media event at the site of an event that we're adding to the schedule." Neat little hint. So we have put that together with dignitaries and VIPs. So that's really the two things that we have to get through first. He also noted that there is likely to be an exhibition event in either Central or South America that they're working on for when the 2024 season is officially over. You know, something like what they did with Augustin Canapino, which I want to say was, November of last year? Somewhere around...
Yes. Yeah.
Not quite Thanksgiving, if I remember right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something like that.
So, yeah, I guess they're working on something like that down there, and maybe one of these days they'll actually get back to officially having a race that counts in the points down there. Let's talk a little Cup Series here. This is a move that really comes as a surprise to no one, despite the fact that we talked about all the rumors to the contrary about whether Denny Hamlin was going to be pulling a Kyle Busch and leaving Joe Gibbs Racing with just a couple more years left, and what might happen with 2311. Monday, Labor Day, they put pen to paper, and Denny Hamlin signed a multi-year extension to his deal with Joe Gibbs Racing. So he'll be there in 2024 and until he decides to retire as a driver. Driver of the 11 car and Gibbs hammered out the final details. Again, it's a multi-year deal. No terms are going to be disclosed, the team said, frankly. I guess that means Hamlin's on a hush order. Keep in mind, Hamlin's been around here for a while. He got his first Cup start in the 11 car with Gibbs back in 2005. He's got over 600 starts to his credit. He's claimed 50 wins. That's tied for 13th on the all-time wins list in the Cup Series. He's claimed 3 Daytona 500s, a Coca-Cola 600, 3 Southern 500 wins. Plus, we talked about the fact that he practically owns Darlington in the Xfinity Series with 6 wins there. Thing is, he's still looking for that Cup title. And if you were paying attention last week on the show when Matt and I did our predictions, we think he'll still be searching after this year. Either way, with Hamlin re-upping at Joe Gibbs, he noted during his weekend or Monday Actions Detrimental podcast that the deal to keep 2311, not 23 by 1, racing with Toyota has been signed, sealed, and delivered as well. He said, quote, "Nothing really changes. We're going to continue on the path that we've been on. It was my goal to make that a championship organization with 5 years. We're going to continue on that trajectory. I think that we're in a good spot. Our relationship with Joe Gibbs Racing is in a good spot. This solidifies all those deals as done." And again, truth be told, I'm not surprised by this. I thought it was just really a matter of time and all the rumors being exactly what they were. It's just people going out there and saying, hey, he could do this or he could do that. He could move to Ford. He could go and take over this car or that car. And I'm sitting here thinking, why? Why would he leave?
Yeah, and guess where those rumors were coming from? The same ones that were starting the other one to buy Tony Stewart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're just going to leave that at that, Jordan Bianchi. A few years ago, John Hunter Nemechek got called up into the Cup Series. He joined Front Row Motorsports. He did find himself a pretty good job. He did find himself running pretty well for an underdog team at the time. But after that 1 year, he took a gamble on himself and he left that team and he dropped all the way back down to the Camping World Truck Series, now the Craftsman Truck Series. He joined Kyle Busch Racing. Since then, he claimed wins. He moved up into the Xfinity Series with Joe Gibbs Racing. Well, in another move that Matt and I saw coming really as soon as Legacy Motor Club, Legacy MC announced earlier this year they were going to be switching from Chevrolet to Toyota. Guess who's back in the Cup Series with Legacy MC? That's right, it's John Hunter Nemechek. It was all but set in stone when Noah Gragson got caught liking a post on social media. I know, the horror. And when he got suspended by NASCAR and suspended by Legacy MC, he looked at Legacy MC and said, hey, release me from my contract. And, well, they did, all but firing him. I did find it interesting that Jimmy Johnson got to talking yesterday and made it a point to state that Noah Gragson asked for the release. The team didn't fire him. Well, you kind of did.
Yeah. Considering that you got Cal Wells as the CEO of that team now, and with his business dealings and how deep he is with Toyota, I'm sure that Toyota put a bug in Cal Wells' ear, like, hey, he needs to go. We need to put somebody else in his car.
Uh-huh.
Well,
So they found the proper opportunity.
When you set the
Go ahead,
driver, when you set the driver on the bench, that's firing him straight up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, an indefinite suspension by NASCAR and then Legacy MC turns around and does the exact same thing. You have no idea when you might be able to get back into the car. I would have probably have done the exact same thing that Noah did and said, hey, listen, you don't believe in me? I'm going to go see if I can't find a team that does.
Yeah. I agree.
So, again, although Noah Gragson being let go, Legacy MC saying they're going to go to Toyota, every single sign point to this. Nemechek was the favorite and still is a favored driver of Toyota Racing Development. There wasn't any place for him to go at Joe Gibbs Racing or 2311, not 23 by 1, the other two Toyota teams. So you can kind of see in how Legacy MC announced the signing for next year on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of the Legacy MC social media. It was kind of understated. I'll give him that. I mean, it was, nice neon look, but kind of an understated, almost overly dark look at John Hunter Nemechek. It's like they were going for a glamour shot or something. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, because we're going to see real quick if this turned into a glamour move or a dark move for John Hunter. Because
True.
I'll say this: you're going to find out. Even though, let me back up and say this first.
Okay.
Even though Legacy has picked it up a little bit these past few weeks,
Sure, but it
You're
seems
gonna
more
find
with the
out.
43 than the 42. And we were talking about this time last year when Eric Jones claimed the win last year at Darlington in the 43. We were thinking to ourselves, okay, yeah, the 43 looks great. What about the 42?
well, last week Carson Hosevar got the best finish for the 42 outside of a non-plate track all year.
True. And
So-
he did exactly what we said he needed to do going in. He kept all the
He
fenders
finished-
on the car.
And he finished every lap on the lead lap. So
Can't beat that.
no, you're going to find out really, 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 really fast how much Toyota's putting into this team versus Gibbs versus
Sure.
2311.
Yeah.
You're going to see real quick how equal Toyota does their cars.
There you go.
Now
Yeah, I agree.
you got to take away the last time that you've seen multiple teams with Toyota, i.e. Gaunt Brothers in the last run of the Gen 6 cars.
Right.
That was really just hey, we're just going to drive a Toyota car. We don't care what we get. We're just
Yeah.
going to fly the Toyota flag.
Yeah.
Okay. From a manufacturer support standpoint, you're going to find out just how much they're getting and how fast they're getting it.
True. I agree. And then there is that third car for Legacy. That's that 84 car, the part-time car with team owner Jimmy Johnson. Johnson was on Fox Sports 1's NASCAR Race Hub on Wednesday, said don't expect to see the 84 back on the track this year. Said that the initial plan to run 5 to 7 races got cut short due to family issues. We talked about the unfortunate killings that happened for his in-laws, Johnson's wife's parents and brother, I think it was, if I remember correctly. I don't have it sitting
No,
in
this
front
is
of me.
nephew.
Nephew, thank you. So he says, yeah, there are no plans to break the car back out this year, but he did say that they plan to run select races in 2024. He didn't detail how many. He only said that he hoped to be able to finalize the schedule soon to determine which races they wanted to try to qualify for. Well, this year, think about it, he got into the Daytona 500. He qualified for the Coca-Cola 600. The best finish was at Daytona when they finished 31st. I have seen as few as 5 races for next year. I've seen as many as 10. Again, all of that is pure speculation. That's not Legacy MC. It's not Jimmy Johnson. It's everybody else going, yeah, we could see as many as 10, or I could see as few as 5. Let's just wait until the official schedule comes out, shall we?
Yeah, let the man that's going to put the helmet on his head tell you how many he's going to run.
Yeah, and then you report it for a little
Yeah,
love.
it's-
A bit lost in all the hubbub of the 2 signings of Hamlin and Nemechek and all this stuff with Legacy. The win by Kyle Larson at Darlington marked a milestone for a division of Hendrick Motorsports. Not Hendrick Motorsports themselves, a specific division of Hendrick Motorsports, specifically the engine department. Huh? Yeah. Larson's win marks win number 500 all time for Hendrick Engines. They got 22 wins in the Truck Series, 122 in Xfinity Series, and in the Cup Series, 356 all time. The first win came way back on April 29th, 1984, courtesy of one Jeff Bodine.
yes, kids, Truck Series used to run regular built engines and not Ilmore.
That's true. Win number 100 took a lot longer than everything else did. Again, 1984. Win number 100 didn't come until 2002. And then things started to pick up steam. Win number 200 came 7 years later in 2009. Then you get another 100 wins under your belt in 5 years, 2014. And then another 100 by 2018, 4 years later. COVID. I don't know. I can't figure out why it took him 5 years to get another 100, but hey, it did. The record of 5, for the record, 3 of the 5 milestone wins did come in a Hendrick Motorsports official entry. The exceptions, win number 300, which is courtesy of Chase Elliott behind the wheel, but then he was in an Xfinity ride for Junior Motorsports. And then you had, by the way, that was at Darlington. Win number 400 came at Daytona with Kyle Larson driving, but he was driving then for Chip Ganassi Racing. Of course, it may not be a coincidence that both of those drivers now run for Hendrick in the Cup Series.
Shocker. Shocker.
And one more note in the Cup Series here, with congratulations going out to AJ Allmendinger and his wife Tara on the birth of their first child. It's a boy that they've named, and I would love to find out the origins of this name. Areo, A-R-E-O, Areo James Allmendinger. He was born Thursday. AJ posted on social media, quote, "It might have taken a little bit longer than we expected, but Tara and I are so thrilled to have our little boy." Areo James Allmendinger finally arrived at our family at 11:31 a.m. this morning. Mama and baby are doing amazing. Thanks to everyone that was so positive through this. I would really like to know where Areo came from.
Yep. So if the next child they have is named Downforce James, and you have AJ and DJ.
Sure, there you go. I like it. Xfinity Series news, and I think we got a short bit on the Truck Series, so we'll take a break after both of those. We talked about it beforehand, mentioned it in the race rundown, clinch scenarios for later today in Kansas in the Xfinity Series. Again, this is their regular season coming to an end. Playoffs begin next race. Should a driver already in the playoffs with at least one win get another win at Kansas later today, which is certainly well in the realms of possibility, Daniel Hemrick is in, regardless of where he finishes. On the other hand, you got that battle between Riley Earpst and Parker Kligerman. Riley leading by 1 point over the cutoff. Parker Kligerman under the cutoff by that one single point. So to point his way in, Riley Earpst would need 54 points, Parker Kligerman 55, or at the very least, Riley Earpst would need to beat Parker Kligerman and hope that nothing else weird happens. Like this. Let's say Parker Kligerman, again, outside of the playoffs by a single point going into today's race, actually jumps up and claims the win. Well, Daniel Hemrick only actually needs to start the race, and he's in. Riley Earpst, strangely enough, could actually still point his way in, but he would need so much help it's not worth detailing here. Hemrick, Herbst, and Kligerman, along with 9 other drivers, actually could automatically get into the playoffs with a win, and hard to believe when we saw him make this move, we were wondering what in the world prompted the team to hire Joe Graff Jr. because he hadn't done anything up until that point. But do you realize that should he claim a win, Joe Graff Jr. is automatically in the playoffs? Who saw that coming?
I never thought we'd hear those words, but hey, here we are.
Yeah, good luck. Hope it. We'll see what happens later on today out at Kansas. I think they're certainly going to be doing a lot of concentrating on the Herbst Kligerman situation. I can guarantee it. So we'll see whether those two drivers can keep a clean race and clean cars all race long, and whether or not they're standing at the end or who isn't, as the case may be.
Yeah, talking about Daniel Hemrick, College Racing this week, they're doing a team swap.
Okay.
For the remaining part of the year through the playoffs, because this car is eligible for the Owners' Championship as well. It's in the Owners' Championship. Daniel Hemrick will be driving the 10 car for the remaining part of the year, while the 11 car will turn into the de facto All-Star car.
Okay.
And Derek Krause is going to pilot it this weekend, and they're practicing just has started. They're 10 minutes in, and Daniel Hemrick is at the top of the board in the 10 car.
He's feeling good. And then there's this, and I want to get the driver's point of view on this as well, because you've gone through inspection in your racing career, short tracks all around the state and the Southeast, really. But last couple of weeks, we have seen a very impressive or depressing, depending on how you want to look at it, number of pre-qualifying and or pre-race inspection failures, and it's prompted NASCAR to make changes. Effective not this week at Kansas, but next week at Bristol, coinciding with the beginning of the Xfinity Series playoff set of races, they're going to try and tighten things up a little bit. And the biggest change is the threshold for what it will take to toss a crew member. Up to and including this weekend at Kansas, in order to be tossed, you had to fail inspection 3 times. Beginning next weekend at Bristol, 2 failures, somebody's going to get tossed. Going back to Daytona a couple of races ago, 6 cars failed pre-race inspection at least 2 times. Last weekend at Darlington, that went up to 7 cars failing pre-race inspection at least 2 times. At this time, there appears to be an Xfinity Series rule only. NASCAR hasn't commented on the Truck or the Cup Series. I think this is Xfinity only, at least for now. They're going to see how this works and whether or not this is a big enough deterrent. But what in the world is causing 6 and 7 cars to fail pre-race or pre-qualifying inspection, not once, but twice, sometimes 3 times, and causing crew members or car chiefs to be tossed out for the weekend?
It's people trying to get and dig and find every little thing they can to cut it as close as they can to within the gray areas of the rule book to get that aero advantage.
But one would presume that these teams have been doing this all season long. Why all of a sudden Daytona and Darlington, the last couple of races in the Xfinity Series, has this suddenly taken center stage?
Well, at Daytona, what I can remember, the 6 cars that failed at Daytona came from 2 teams.
They did.
Came from 2 teams. So it tells me, and then, in Daytona, you got all of a sudden Larry McReynolds comes back to a crew chief of car for Jordan Anderson. And Larry Mac, we need to move this, need to move this, need to move this. Put all the cars there, and then boom, all 3 cars fail inspection and have to start at the back and make a pass-through penalty. So it boils down to everybody trying to cut corners and play within that gray area as tight as they absolutely can to the black side of the rule book versus staying on the white side of the rule book.
And NASCAR being that much more vigilant?
Yeah, because it's at a super speedway, if you have that many cars fail inspection that many times, they're getting creative.
Yeah. And NASCAR has brought out the fine-tooth comb, and they're really taking a very, very close look at everything.
Yep.
Okay. 2 more notes, really, because you had a note on the Truck Series as well we'll get to here in a second. Carson Kvapil, highly accomplished in the Cars Pro Late Model Series, got several wins to his credit, driving for Junior Motorsports there. Well, now he's going to get a chance at the upper levels of NASCAR. He will join next weekend at Bristol, of all places. He will join Spire Motorsports to drive their number 7 truck with HendrickCars.com as the sponsor and get his Truck Series debut. For those wondering how he might be related to the other Kvapil, Travis. Travis is Carson's father. Carson is all of 20. He leads the Cars Pro Late Model points as of this show and admits he would like to follow in his father's footsteps. Travers has almost 500 starts over the top 3 series in a career that ran from 2001 to 2019. Travis won the 2003 Truck Series title, but he was never having that kind of luck in the Cup Series. Never actually even won a race in the Cup Series. The look at Quapple is thanks to motorsport.com that you can see on CRN Live on YouTube right now. We appreciate that particular look. Carson Quapple going to Bristol for the first race.
Being in the truck that he's in, I wouldn't necessarily close my eyes and try to fall asleep on him.
Okay. So you give him a more than a puncher's chance.
Yeah, I mean, yesterday at Kansas in a pretty solid ARCA car, he was the only other car to finish on the lead lap outside the winner. So
Yikes.
I think he'll be okay. I mean, he held his own quite well yesterday in the ARCA race, being his first ever 1.5-mile start on anything. So and then being in the Spire 7 truck, I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, I mean, with HendrickCars.com as a sponsor, I would say they've gotten more than just a little bit of help from Hendrick, period.
Yep.
And
He'll be all right.
you had another note from yesterday. Am I remembering that correctly?
Yes. Everybody remembers the L2 penalty that was leveled to Ty Majeski in ThorSport.
And they never detailed it?
And it was never detailed until yesterday.
Yeah. For those of you that, by the way, don't remember, this is when NASCAR pulled a tire, confiscated the tire, and didn't replace the tire.
Right. From one simple little thing. All right. Series director Seth Cranlett met with media yesterday at Kansas and detailed what happened.
Okay.
As the truck was going through the inspection line, they were checking tire clearances on the wheel wells, and one of the inspectors heard air leaking from the right rear tire.
Oops.
They thought the tire was going flat. No, it was not. They put it in the dunk tank, what they call the dunk tank, just checking for leaks. The actual tire was not leaking. It was leaking from around the valve stem. Was it a bad valve stem? No, it was not. What ThorSport had done, and I've actually seen this in dirt racing.
Okay.
I've not done this, but I've seen it. The metal valve stem caps that they had, the aluminum valve stem caps they had, somehow they rigged up a little small way to put a piece inside the valve stem cap. So when you when you tighten the valve stem cap, it's an automatic bleeder.
Okay.
Where it bleeds the air off. You can't run anything that causes air to bleed off in the tires, period. That's one of the holy trifectas you don't mess with.
Yeah.
Which keeps the right rear pressure down, so to make the truck have grip, therefore just doing whatever you want to at will. So that's where they confiscated it from. So a little 50-cent part that they modified cost them $75,000.
Yeah.
$25,000, excuse me.
But here's my question. Why did it take NASCAR so long to mention that was the problem?
Because because their new protocol is the week after the event, after said penalty takes place, they put everything on display for everybody to see, and they break it down like, hey, this is what we found. That transparency that we call for and have been calling for, they're finally doing it.
Slowly.
Slowly, yeah. They're showing it, and like, okay, you took a 50-cent part and modified it to where air can bleed off. Because they do have valve stems that have ways of bleeding themselves off.
Sure.
Automatically will bleed themselves off if they hit a certain pressure.
Yeah.
This right here was just you could call it the redneck ingenuity of making it work.
I got you. All right. Well, let's take a break here. When we come back, we will turn our attention to the straight line racers here because we know everybody that's in the countdown to the championship. Okay. That was quick. But yeah, we're going to deal with everybody that's in the countdown to the championship from all 4 of the Camping World Drag Racing Series divisions. And we've got some more open wheel news to talk about as we get into Formula One and Formula E as well. Big name is retiring from Formula E. We'll detail that when we come back. And as I mentioned, quite a bit of Formula One news, but NHRA is next as we continue on right here on CRN.
We will be right back with more on the Championship Racing Network. fuel only, fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
On Myers, and we have turned our attention to the straight line guys who ran their last race of their quote-unquote regular season last week in Indianapolis. And we promised at the recap time that we would tell you who the contenders are in the Camping World Drag Racing Series divisions for the chase for the championship. The next 6 races going to decide that. Now, this is not one of those situations where it is, for example, in the Cup Series, you got 16. In the Xfinity Series, you got 12. In the Truck Series, you got 10. They start off with 10, but then there are other ways that you can qualify to be able to get into the chase. For example, as long as you run all of the specific races and all that kind of stuff. I'm not going to get into all that. Let's just say that in most cases, there are more than 10 drivers vying for the title of each division. Let's start off with Top Fuel. Justin Ashley is your 1 seed. He leads the way over the 2 seed Steve Torrance. Then you got Antron Brown. Again, all of these are in seed order. Leah Pruitt, Tony Stewart's significant other. Brittany Force. Then Doug Coletta, Mike Salinas, Austin Prock, Clay Milliken, Josh Hart. In this case, it is only 10 vying for the title. And I'll tell you this right now. I keep looking at Steve Torrance and I look at Antron Brown, Matt, and I'm thinking those two are probably, in my mind, going to be the ones fighting it out for the title.
Probably so, but I wouldn't sleep on Justin Ashley.
No, he's actually done pretty well for being somewhat under the radar all year long.
Yeah.
You got 11 drivers who are qualified for the chase in Funny Car. 1 seed is Ron Capps, then Matt Hagan, Robert Height, Bob Tasca III, J.R. Todd, Alexis DeJoria, Chad Green, Tim Wilkerson. John Force is a relatively low seed. He's a 9 seed coming in. Cruz Pedregon and Alex Laughlin in there. And this is kind of a bad situation for John Force. I mean, at one point in time, John Force was as high as a 3 seed if the playoffs had started at that point in time. So he's kind of fallen off here. Matt Hagan came out of the chute like a horse with its tail on fire. He's still the 2 seed, but we're not seeing what we saw at the beginning of the year out of Matt Hagan. Ron Capps is sitting there, and Robert Height. Those two seem to be fighting it out more often than not. I might give a slight advantage to Capps, but I'm not going to say that Matt Hagan can't finish this year strong. To me, it's the 1, 2, and the 3 seed that are going to be battling it out.
Yeah, with I would say with the outside shot at Bob Tasca slipping up there.
It would be an interesting move.
Okay. Yeah, I would agree with you on those 3.
This one's a little bit, these next 2 are a little bit harder to call here because they have been off the last couple of weeks and we don't know what they've been working on. 15, you heard me right, 15 drivers qualifying for the Pro Stock Car title. Dallas Glenn is your 1 seed. Matt Hartford's your 2 seed. Erica Enders is your 3. Troy Coughlin Jr., Derek Kramer, then Aaron Stanfield, Greg Anderson, Kyle Koretsky. Camry Caruso, who was a driver that you picked early on in the season there, Matt. Christian Quadra, Bo Butner III, Fernando Quadra Jr., Jerry Tucker, Mason McGahey, and Chris McGahey. Those are all the drivers that are way, way down in 13th, 14th, 15th, and all that. If I'm looking, Dallas Glenn's the 1 seed, but I'm pretty squarely looking at Erica Enders again, and she's your 3 seed coming in.
Yeah, I would say between her, probably Derek Kramer could slip up there.
Yeah.
But I'm still not betting against Camry Caruso.
She has been ridiculously solid all year, if not spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
So
Agreed.
I see where you're coming from. And then Pro Stock Motorcycle. A dozen riders qualified to compete for the title. The top seed is, shockingly, Gage Herrera. Matt Smith is your 2 seed, then Hector Arana Jr., Eddie Krawick, Angie Smith. Steve Johnson is sitting in there from the Alabama area. Then you got Chase Van Zandt, Mark Ingwerson, Gianna Evaristo, Kelly Klontz, Ryan Ayler, and Chris Bostic. If anybody but Gage Herrera wins the title here, that will be one of the bigger upsets in racing history in recent memory.
Agreed. Fully agree.
So we're penciling him in. And then there's this. This is pretty cool stuff here. We've talked about in the past on this show the viewing audience, television viewing audience for sports here in the United States. We've noted it. Pro football is the king. It's the master. Let's just go back to Thursday night, the season opener between the Detroit Lions, who walked into Kansas City and beat the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs 21-20. 28 million people. Remind you, 28 million people watched that live. With all of the different things that we could be doing, that is a very, very high number. And as a general rule, your average Sunday afternoon NFL game will get 15 to 20 million people watching. And that's your average NFL game. Forget if you get this really big marquee matchup. You're talking more than 20 million. They're number one. College football, football rules here in the United States, American football, for those of you that are overseas. College football's next. The average college football game will get between 7.5 and 10 million people watch. And if you get a good marquee matchup tonight, Alabama versus Texas, number 3 versus number 11, that number could go higher. Third on the list is your average run-of-the-mill, in other words, not Daytona 500, Cup Series race. Cup Series races average 2.5 to 3 million people watching per race, regardless of the race. And then after that, you drop down into the 1 to 1.5 million range, and that's where IndyCar and Formula One sit. Formula One's had the better of that recently, but not by a whole lot. And then Xfinity Series comes in at right about 1 million, and then you drop down to between 750,000 to 1 million, depending on the race and where it's at. And that's the next 3. That will be the Craftsman Truck Series, the NHRA, and even the Superstar Racing Experience. They'll all be there. But last weekend, we talked about it, last race of the regular season, if you will, for the NHRA at Indianapolis. And the NHRA jumped up and grabbed 2.1 million people watching, whereas the Cup Series on USA grabbed 2.5. Nice weekend for the NHRA. Didn't hurt that they were on Fox, whereas the Cup Series was on USA. So yeah, Cup Series still won the weekend, but it was probably a lot closer than NASCAR would ever like to admit here. And here's the thing. Yeah, they're off this week. But next weekend, Fox knows what they've got. Fox is going to put the NHRA first race of the chase for the championship back on the main network. And that means that it will have the king of American motorsports television to be able to either lead in or follow it. And of course, that's the NFL. Next week is going to be an interesting situation to find out what the ratings are in the NHRA and see if they're better than the 2.1 million they pulled at Indianapolis.
Yep. You're going to find it out for sure.
What we do know is this. We're watching. That we do know. And then one more note here in when it comes to the NHRA, and it's a kid by the name of Travis Shoemake. Travis is a second-generation NHRA driver who appears to be ready to jump up to the top levels of the series. We're talking about the Camping World Drag Racing Series. Shoemake is licensed right now in 4 different lower divisions: Super Comp, Top Alcohol, Nostalgia Funny Car. But he's bought himself a Top Fuel ride, a Nitro Camping World Drag Racing Series Top Fuel ride. Tuesday of this week, he made 3 runs at Indy. Got a picture of Shoemake right now on CRN Live on YouTube, courtesy of NHRA.com. Those 3 runs, one had to be aborted because he smoked the tires, but he made a 660-foot run that was his best time ever in a nitro-powered car for that length. Next up, going to be full runs. They have to be under a specific time. If he does that, and it appears that he can, he'll be able to claim his Nitro Top Fuel license. The dragster he has, which he's nicknamed Judith Light, if that should mean anything to you, that's because it was named after the boss from the actress in Who's the Boss back from the 1980s, not the reboot. And it's got a winning heritage. It was first owned by Blake Alexander and Josh Hart. Each of them had 2 wins in it. Mike Salinas had intended to give it to his daughter. We talked about the fact that she's testing for her own Top Fuel license now. He decided to end up building a new one for her, so he sold it to Shoemake. Shoemake is the son of veteran funny car pilot Trip Shoemake. Made his debut last year on Top Alcohol, competing in 4 events, and more often this year. So while competing in 2 other classes that he's licensed in, he says he hopes to continue to acquire the needed equipment to make his Top Fuel debut next year. Among the things that he says he needs, and this would help. If anybody would know this, our resident driver would. He needs a fully equipped transporter. Yeah, you kind of need to get the race car to where they're racing.
Yeah, I don't think you can put a top fuel car on a open trailer to haul to Indianapolis or Denver or Dallas or wherever.
Well, you could.
Well,
In pieces.
Well, in pieces, or you might be able to find a long enough trailer. I'm thinking Mike Harmon might be able to know somebody. Anyway, he also admits that he does need more seat time to prepare, but yeah, I would expect before the end of the year he'll probably get himself that NHRA top fuel license. Again, I don't see this as being a problem. Mike Salinas' daughter, Jelena, I think I've got her name right, she's got her top fuel license. She'll be debuting next year. So yeah, looks like top fuel is about to expand out on its ranks. Turning our attention to Formula One here, and we'll take a break after this because I don't know where to go after this. So I'm just going to say we'll take a break after this story, John. So we talked about last weekend in Italy, Carlos Sainz gets the pole position and turns around and gets a podium finish at home. Again, this is the Italian Grand Prix. It's where Ferrari is based, Italy. It's where they build all of their road-going cars. It's where they build their race cars. They do it all out of Maranello, Italy. But apparently no good deed goes unpunished, as the old saying goes, and because you happen to be wearing your Ferrari outfit, you don't get the respect. You get a target on your back. Carlos Sainz, again, got the pole, got a podium finish, and for all of his efforts, got robbed. Sainz was reportedly still wearing his driver's uniform when he and some of the members of his Ferrari crew were making their way to the team hotel, the Armani. Sounds like a really nice place, in Milan. And he got targeted by at least 2 thieves, and they got his Richard Mille watch. That's a not cheap watch. It's valued at £500,000 British, or close to 550,000 US. It's a watch. But either way, reports go on to state that not only did Sainz, but his trainer and members of the public who happened to witness the theft began to chase after the robbers, caught them, held them until the authorities arrived. Long story short, police placed one man in handcuffs. Sainz gets his watch back.
Well. At least
I
he got
don't
his
know.
watch back.
I don't know where these two people got the idea that they were going to get away with this, especially when you're talking about robbing a Ferrari driver in Italy who's wearing his uniform. But you're morons.
Yeah, that's an understatement.
When we come back, we'll talk about Daniel Ricciardo. He has been injured and out the last couple of races. When will he come back? We'll talk about it next.
Stay right here for more on the Championship Racing Network. Fuel only, fuel only. Go, go, go. We're back to the Championship Racing Network.
Yeah, it looks like we're going to wrap up pretty much on time. We might end up a couple of minutes over, but again, that's the fun of being YouTube only this weekend. Next weekend, we will be back doing not only YouTube, but back on the radio, and we'll keep you updated throughout the course of the season as we know. Again, our flagship station, beholden to college football, and again, football rules here in the South, so we got preempted. So we went YouTube only. Hope it's working out well for you. We appreciate you checking us out. We're into Formula One news here, where the comeback of Daniel Ricciardo to Formula One after half a season out of a full-time seat got paused because he broke a bone in his left hand. It was what he suffered during the second practice session for the Dutch Grand Prix. Remember, we detailed that a couple of weeks ago. Well, he missed that race, and he also missed last weekend's Italian Grand Prix. According to Racer.com, he isn't going to be back next weekend either when Formula One gets back into action. They're off this weekend, then they head on their Asian swing. The site's reporting that Ricciardo is set to miss both races, Singapore and Japan, and they say his first race back likely set to be October the 8th in Qatar. Now, Liam Lawson filled in for Ricciardo at both of the races, Dutch and Italian. It appears they're going to continue with Lawson in Singapore and Japan while Ricciardo goes through recovery. He showed a picture of himself on social media and detailed the hand. He showed the left hand, and right here, in this area as you're watching on CRN Live on YouTube, which I do understand is the only way that you're listening to this particular show, but still. The stitches ran between where my thumb and forefinger are. So they really had to do a pretty good cut to get to the bone and to help set it. And I think he said he's got some metal in there. Higher? Okay, does that work? So yeah, so right about that long. So, you think about that, that's pretty much the length of your palm on your pinky side, and that's how long of a stretch of stitches it was. So yeah, they had to do pretty good work there. He's in rehab. We know that. Team principal Christian Horner added to this, said, quote, "I think certainly Singapore, I don't think there's any chance he'll be ready for then. It would be optimistic to think he'd be back for Japan. He's got mobility of the hand and is in rehabilitation now, and we've seen with motorcyclists rushing comebacks that they can sometimes do more damage, so we just want to make sure that he's fully fit before he gets back in the car." Now, what that tells me is that Red Bull, at least, is committed to Daniel Ricciardo long-term, as opposed to the situation that they dealt with when they brought in Nick DeVries, who they kept for half a year and then said, "Oh, well, yeah, thanks, but bye."
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want to get started on that. That was the dumbest move I've ever seen.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still not a fan of the move, truth be told. You signed the kid because he had promise. You put him in, not even arguably, the two cars within the Red Bull organization that were easily the worst two. I mean, AlphaTauri has scored 3 points all year long. Okay? Yeah. Whereas Red Bull is just running away with everything and has scored more than 500 Constructors' Championship points. AlphaTauri's got 3. We know that these cars are not anywhere near on the same level as Red Bull. Heck, they're not even on the same level right now as Haas. And that's saying something. So why in the world did they lose confidence so quickly in Nick DeVries? And now all of a sudden they're going, hey, Daniel Ricciardo, we've got him. He's willing to run AlphaTauri. Why don't we just keep him? Why didn't you put Daniel Ricciardo in the AlphaTauri car to begin with?
That's the $100,000 question right there, Bob. I don't know.
Christian Horner, you owe me a check.
You took Nick DeVries out of Formula E.
Yep, where he was doing well.
Battery-powered car. And you put him into a pushing 1,000 horsepower car. Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's going to be just a tiny bit of a learning curve there.
But it's not only that. You put him in a low-quality racer.
Thank you. That's it. Thank you. That is it.
I feel sorry for Nick DeVries. I really do, because I think he got thoroughly shafted. I don't think he did. He did.
He did.
Yeah, I don't think he got thoroughly shafted. He got thoroughly shafted, period. That's the statement. It's not an opinion. It is the truth. He got shafted.
See this right here. It was something motorsport.com released out. Something they actually did that was actually smart and made sense.
Okay.
They put a graphic out of the most wins in a Formula One season per team,
Oh, okay.
and the percentage. If you're dating from the lowest to the top, Ferrari in 2004 won 15 out of 18 at 83% clip.
Wow.
Mercedes in 2014 won 16 out of 19 at an 84% clip.
Okay.
Ferrari in 02 won 15 out of 17 at an 88% clip. Mercedes in 16 won 19 out of 21 at a 90% clip. And taken away this year so far, McLaren in 1988 won 15 out of 16 at a 94% clip. But as we know, Red Bull is batting 1,000 this year so far.
Yes, they are.
And not showing signs of any backing down.
They've won every single race so far this year.
That record could fall.
Yeah, easily. And it'll never be beaten. It could only be tied. And to do that in a 20, this will be is this a 22 race or 20? This is a 22 race year, isn't it?
I think it's, 22, I think.
Ugh, good grief. To sweep a 22 race year is just ridiculous. And then there's the question about, again, rumors being rumors as they are. We were kind of waiting to find out officially from the FIA as to whether or not this was true. But we had heard that potentially as at least one team had broken the budget cap for this year, or for last year officially again. Yeah, the FIA has released a statement that all 10 teams complied with the budget cap for 2022, which was $140 million per car. The cap was introduced at $145 million per car for 2021, dropped to $140 million for last year, as opposed to the first year when Red Bull didn't account for all their expenses. This year, the FIA said all teams balanced their checkbooks properly. So congratulations.
Good
all
for
10, all 10 teams needed to have their numbers in for 2022 by March of this year. For whatever reason, it took until September for the accountants hired by the FIA to determine that all the teams were in compliance, but either way, they finally did. Again, there had been some rumors that Red Bull might have gone over for a second year in a row, but the FIA says, nope, they're fine. Okay, we'll take your word for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this bit of information that I found kind of interesting, because you think about sometimes how the leadership of a particular league and the players, for example, we've seen Major League Baseball and the NFL and the NHL go on strike numerous times. We've seen rebellions, if you will, from NASCAR drivers in the past. And in the past, when it comes to trying to continue on with what they call the Concord Agreement in Formula One, it has gotten, well, almost physically violent. Now things seem to be a little bit better. Liberty CEO Greg Maffei says he's looking to try and get things rolling without any potential interruptions, wants to get a head start on the new Concord Agreement. Again, that's the deal between Formula One, all the teams, however many they may be, 10 right now, and the FIA. The current deal that they have runs through 2025, so why the rush? Well, Maffei noted things have, seemed tense at the least and outright angry all too often in the past when it came to try to renegotiate the next Concord Agreement and continue things on smoothly. But he did say that the last one, which took effect for the 2021 year, after Liberty Media had bought the commercial rights deal for Formula One, was much smoother. He noted the team seemed to actually kind of embrace Liberty Media taking over from the aforementioned, the before owner, Bernie Ecclestone. Now, here's the thing. Bernie Ecclestone, we've talked about Bernie. And there's actually, I'm trying to think, I think it's on Netflix. It's either at Netflix or Amazon Prime. It's one of the two that has, or had, I haven't looked for it in a while, a documentary on Bernie Ecclestone about how he got into racing and how he ended up becoming the man who held the commercial rights deal for Formula One. And they stated pretty much flat out, he ruled Formula One with an iron fist.
Yep.
And for some people that works because they like the rigidness of it and saying, okay, this is the little circle, this is the little ball that we get to play inside of, and anything on the outside of it doesn't match with what Bernie's trying to do. So, okay, this is our limits. But ruling with an iron fist, sooner or later, you're going to get on somebody's nerves. And apparently it got on more people's nerves than what we had ever heard in the past. So Liberty Media comes in, I think it was for the 2018 season. They buy the commercial rights deal. And like I said, Maffei even noted it. Even though the current agreement runs not just through 2024, but through 2025, they have begun preliminary talks about extending that deal. And he thinks that Liberty's open door policy with all the teams and the drivers will keep things moving smoothly. But he didn't mention the fact that they could still be adding one or more new teams. And that, I think, if there's going to be a fly in the ointment, the monkey wrench in the works, if you will,
Yeah.
adding a new team or new teams, I think might be the one thing that might prompt a little bit of animosity in continuing on with the Concord agreement beyond 2025.
Yeah, just for the disclaimer, and have not filed our official entry blank for the 2026 season, and nor do we have the $250 million to put up for the contract entry fee alone.
Right.
So there's one team that's eliminated already.
Sure.
So, but you do recognize that once Liberty took over from Bernie Ecclestone and the Bernie Ice, whatever you want to call them, F1 has went this.
Oh, yeah. It has skyrocketed.
In a long way.
Yeah.
So they're doing something right. Let them keep developing it and make it even bigger, even though it's been a show that has been stunk up this year by Red Bull.
Yes.
Let them keep developing it.
Sure, absolutely. I think they're on the right, to pardon the pun, but I think they're on the right track.
Yeah.
So, yeah, keep it up. Definitely. And that brings us to Formula E. After season 9, Andre Lauderer has said he is done with Formula E, a time he termed as life-changing in the statement that he released to the public via social media. He said this, quote, "Formula E was the most challenging and fun championship I've ever taken part in. I'm extremely grateful and proud to have driven in Formula E, to have promoted sustainable technologies, and to have met the amazing people in this paddock." Remember, Formula One calls the garage and the pit area paddock versus we just call it the pit area here in the United States. Some of whom are now my best friends, he continued on. "Thank you to all the amazing support in all these years. The 41-year-old who was actually born in Belgium but races under the German flag." No, I don't know why. Continued on, saying, quote, "It's time for me to close my 26-year-long career in Formula racing. I've decided to no longer take part in the ABB FIA Formula E World Championship in order to fully concentrate on my challenge with the Porsche Penske Motorsport at Le Mans for the 4th time in the FIA WEC." When he came into Formula E, he drove for Avalanche Andretti and the season just ended. The picture, trying to remember if he's in the Avalanche Andretti uniform, but I don't know. The team confirmed his departure and his retirement, posting on social media, "Thank you, Andre. We can confirm Andre Lauderer will not be returning to the team in 2024. We'd like to thank Andre for all of his efforts, wish him the very best in his future endeavors. The team has not yet announced their replacement driver. I would imagine they won't take too long since, again, about 6 weeks from now, they've got to get into preseason testing for 2024. Lauderer's career actually began in karting like most drivers in the Formula feeder ladder. Joined Formula BMW back in 1998, added Euro Cup Formula Renault the next year, moved up to Formula 3 in 2000. He even got a start in the old kart series in 2002 with Dale Coyne Racing. He finished outside the top 10, sorry. Worked his way up through what is now Super Formula in Japan, run consistently in that series through 2017, added some races in the World Endurance Championship, including several starts in the 24 Hours Le Mans, including being a part of 3 class wins. So congratulations to him on that, and that's what he wants to concentrate on now. He joined Formula E for the 2017-2018 season, running for DS Takeda at first, then joined Tag Heuer Porsche, and as noted for Avalanche Andretti this past year. 79 starts in all, 8 podium finishes, but unfortunately for him, no race wins. 2 poles, 3 times claiming the fastest lap of the race, said he plans again to return to the World Endurance Challenge Series where he's had the most success. The picture that you saw on CRN Live on YouTube of Lauderer was thanks to motorsport.com. Well, thank you to everyone who's checked us out here again on this kind of a one-of-a-kind show. We haven't done it often, but we may have to do it more often depending on the schedule of the University of Georgia Bulldogs and how early a kickoff may be. But next week, back to the regular. Not only CRN Live on YouTube, but we're also going to be on our flagship station. So if there are any audio problems, you can obviously check us out that way as well. Again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for the comments, by the way, on the background. That's a collection that started way back in 2001. I've liked it. My wife has been, well, let's just say, uneven on it. But I'm done. I only got Darrell Waltrip and Tony Stewart up there anyway, and neither one of them are putting new cars out. So, y'all have a fantastic week. Enjoy the racing. We'll talk to you again next week from our regular location at our regular time, 9 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Central Time. Enjoy the racing. Enjoy the week. We'll talk to you next weekend right here on the Championship Racing Network.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.